Hello, my name is Mike Pfaff, and this is my YouTube channel, Living in the Illusion. Now, it's been about a week since we've put another video out, and this one will be the last in our series on, and this is what we talked about last time. This is the model and what we talked about last time. But the series that we started with is the scientific method scientific? And I planned on doing 5 segments in the series. Well, there doesn't seem to be that much interest in looking at this. So I've changed it to 3. And this will be the last one in the series of looking at the scientific model, or is science really scientific? So if you want more information, put comments down below, and we'll come up with some kind of an answer. But the tea for today. Now, here in southern Michigan, southeastern Michigan, we're getting ready for Christmas, so it's December, and the tea is gingerbread festival from a tea merchant called Arnie's and Sons, and you can look it up on the internet. And it is a seasonal tea, at least for me, and it's quite pleasant for this time of year. A lot of ginger in it. So this is what we talked about last time. Okay, and and I started out because there are 5 steps to the scientific method. I thought, well, we'd do 5 videos. But no, this is going to be the last one. And so we're going to quickly cover hypothesis and experiment and come up with a conclusion. They all might be the same thing. But here's what we talked about last time. Coming up with, from observations, we develop questions. Questions come up as we observe things. Well, here's the problem. It's not necessarily a problem, it's just the way things are. We observe in first person. I see, I hear, I touch, I smell, I taste. And that's how we observe. Now, those are all first person, and they are subjective, as we went through in the model. And this is not a new concept that we've talked about. So we have other concepts recognizing that the senses don't tell you anything that you think they do. Everything is an interpretation of the mind based on the belief system of the observer. The observer affects the observed. Can't get away from it. It's part of the quantum physics. It's the observer effect. So when you make an observation, any kind of observation, whether you recognize it on a conscious level or not, you are making an subjective observation. There is no objective point of view, but we think there is. We think we're clever enough. We'll say, well, I'm looking at this, and what I'm going to do is, first of all, I don't know, it's subjective. I think it's objective. I think that's an object out there. Now, that's why we got to look at the model. This isn't the first time I put the model on a board. And if you look real close, why, it's a little more sophisticated than I've done before. This is basically the standard model for the illusion. What does that mean? It's a standard model for how we operate in the illusion. So we are not being objective at any time, but we will believe we are. That's how the egoic world works. So the scientific method and science, being very scientific, is a cornerstone of the illusion that we all live in, or the egoic world belief system. And if you remember what we said about A Course in Miracles the last time, the world asks but one question. Now, what could that be? What is the one question we keep asking? Recognize we're in an illusion. We create illusions. We create illusions by how this model works. So now the one question is, which of the illusions that we generate is true? Which of the illusions that we generate or make is true? Whether we use a scientific method or some other method. Scientific method, very successful. No question about that. But is it scientific? That's the underlying question. And which one of the illusions is true? If it's an illusion, it's not true. None of them are true. So science will continue to try to find the bottom of the well. Doesn't matter which well they're looking down. They'll try to find the bottom of the well. For instance, what is an atom? Do we know everything about an atom? Well, no, we've got a lot of theories, and theories, some of them are pretty good. Well, what about the electron? Do we know what the electron is? Well, no, but we got a lot of theories, and some of them are pretty good. Well, what about all those other things? Well, we got a lot of theories, and some of them seem to work well, and some of them don't work so well. It's all an illusion. But we believe we're dealing with objective reality, and we never do. That's the way it is. So which one of the illusions that we create, that we make, that we bring together, that we form a conclusion around is going to be true? None of them. Science will not find the bottom of the well. And they will say, well, that's how science works. We continually get better and look for more stuff. There is no bottom of the well. It goes straight to infinity. And you never find the bottom. So now, which one of the illusions are real? I was going to go into a little more on this and change this model, but let's kind of keep it here and just we'll just cross this out. We're not talking about questions now. We're not talking about questions. Questions, well, see, here's how it works. You got subjective observations, and then you make questions about your subjective observations. Now, the questions must be subjective also, because you got to have correlation. You can't have subjective subjective observations and have objective questions about the observations. Just doesn't work that way. So so those questions are going to be subjective. Why? They must be in the belief system of the observer. So then you're going to develop a hypothesis about those questions called a null hypothesis, which is like a question, but it is measurable. So you form a question that is measurable, that is a guess. And then you do experiments on that to check out the hypothesis, which is a guess, and then you draw conclusions. Do I have to change the hypothesis? And you may, even though it's subjective. Now, I want to make a quantum leap here. Most science say, well, you have to have the mathematics. The mathematics drives the scientific method. The mathematics must prove the conclusion. Now, here's the point that most people don't recognize. Most scientists don't recognize. And we have a conclusion. Now here, let us have a blank sheet of paper. We're going to have a blank sheet of paper, and on that blank sheet of paper, write the conclusion, the mathematical conclusion. Well, what do you mean? Well, since mathematics drives the conclusion. See, mathematics drives the conclusion. Before you have a conclusion, blank sheet of paper, what's the mathematics? What kind of mathematics are you going to come up with? For instance, Einstein, E equals mc squared. Now, he didn't start off with a blank piece of paper and say E equals mc squared. By the way, there's a little bit more to it, but that's what we accept. He, in his mind, that's why it's called a thought experiment. Imagine himself on the edge of a light wave, of going at the speed of light. And from that, he developed certain conclusions. Now, when you have the conclusion, now you bring in the math. And what is the math going to prove? your conclusion. The math doesn't drive the conclusion. The conclusion drives the math. The experience is first and primal, and then you develop the math to satisfy the conclusion. But in the egoic world, we think it's the other way around. We think, oh no, the math drives the conclusion. The math proves the conclusion is right. Now think about it the other way around. You have a conclusion and you want to make the math match the conclusion. So you develop the math to match the conclusion. And then you say, see, the math was first, and it's very scientific, and out of the math comes the conclusion. Now, we always do it the other way around. Euclid did the same thing when he made Euclidean physics, algebra. He had a problem, and he did thought experiments. He came up with it, and then he developed the mathematics to match his conclusion. But we, in the illusion, think it's the other way around. Oh, the math drives. Math is secondary, experience is primary, and consciousness is the primary or fundamental. Everything flows from consciousness. Or you may call it something else. You may call it the Tao. The Tao flows from the east through the west. Everything comes from the Tao. Everything returns to the Tao. There's nothing outside the Tao. There's nothing outside of consciousness. But in the illusion, we can have all kinds of stuff because it's ego-driven. So that's not why we're not going to go any further into this. You have your own ideas because you have your own belief system. Whether or not scientific method is really scientific, or whether science is really scientific. But science, the belief in science, is the cornerstone of the egoic world. It is the cornerstone and holds the illusion in place. When we talked about A Course in Miracles around questioning, what's the one question the world asks? Which of the illusions is real? None. Now let's see what the Course in Miracles says about it. This is what we're talking about today. Which is the third. I should have put 3 of 3 up there. So here's what it says, as soon as I get the right piece of paper. I have said that the ego's rule is seek and do not find. This is a fundamental rule of the ego in the egoic world. Seek, but do not find. Now there's a reference in the description of the video. Now think about that. You're not going to find the bottom of the well. There is no bottom. You're just going to continue to go, continue to go, continue to go. And we'll gain all kinds of magnificent things, but we won't find reality. Reality is not found in the illusion. What you find in the illusion is illusory. Oh, we have much to talk about here in the illusion. Now let's see if there's anything else that I want to talk about that I might have forgot. Yeah. In order to see the illusion for what it is, you have to change your vision. You have to change your vision. Not your sight, not your eyes, because you don't see with your eyes anyway. You see with the interpretation of the mind. And the interpretation of the mind is based upon your belief system. So if you want to change your vision, you got to change your belief system. Here is the question. Which of your beliefs do you want to throw out first? We have much to talk about here in the illusion. The illusion is illusory. And I look forward to seeing you again here in the illusion. Now, if you have any questions, comments, likes, dislikes, put them down below, and we'll do the best we can to answer them. And we look forward to seeing you next time. We'll still be here in the illusion. Bye now.